Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be talking about Myles Garrett and what he just said about possibly being traded to the Washington Commanders if he thinks it would be a good fit. We'll talk about what I think about the fit and how right now the Washington Commanders are co-favorites to trade for Myles Garrett. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe. We're like 150 subscribers away from 15,000 subscribers. Less than like 35% of you guys are subscribed. It's free, it takes 1 second, means a ton. Comment down below also what you would give up for Myles Garrett. So we'll talk about this for a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead, show you guys the clip or read what he said during the clip about being traded possibly to the Washington Commanders, because he was asked about that today. So right now they are favorites, co-favorites to trade for the the superstar Myles Garrett per Bovado Official, a bunch of other books as well. I don't think it really matters that much if they're favorites or not, because I think when it first came out, the Cowboys were the favorites, and then it was the Commanders. Like the Cowboys, let's keep it real, they have no money for Myles Garrett, and they don't have a lot of, I guess they have the assets if they want to, but they don't have the money to trade for a guy like Myles Garrett. But a lot of people have been linking the Commanders to Myles Garrett, and it makes sense. They have a lot of cap space. They still have draft capital. It's not like they don't have a first round pick this year or next year. They do. And Diana Rossini said it, and she said it would accelerate the rebuild. And at this point, I think the Commanders are retooling their roster, but rebuilding, I think they've passed that point. When you go to the NFC Championship, I don't think you can necessarily consider yourself in a rebuild. Yeah, they need to retool some of the roster, but a rebuild, I'm not completely sure about that at this point where they are. Yeah, when Adam Peters got here, you can say that, but I think they skipped a couple steps in a good way. They accelerated through those first couple steps with the way that they performed. And sorry if it cut off a little bit. There was some issue with the recording there, but I tried to leave off right where I stopped talking. But let's go into what Myles Garrett said, and then we'll go over some possible trades that they could make, what makes sense. I think some Commanders fans and NFL fans in general are undervaluing what Garrett is going to demand. Obviously, it's going to start with a first round pick plus, and I think some people don't think that's the case, but minimum a first round pick, could be 2 as well. But this is Myles Garrett today talking with Sports Illustrated. I'll play the clip without the audio because of copyright issues, but basically he was asked by the reporter if would he like to go to the Commanders, and he laughs a little bit, and it's because he's laughing a little bit because it's like, all right, like I got to answer the question. Like it's not necessarily something he wants to. He can't give a straightforward answer about it, so I think that's why he's laughing. But I know some people were like, the Commanders got him giggling here, but the guy asked him if he thought about it. And then basically Myles Garrett says that he thinks they really need a pass rusher. They definitely missed it in the playoffs, something that they were missing. And he said he can fill that role. And then he said that's a role that multiple teams need. So he basically said, yeah, would be. He didn't close the door on it. He also was mentioning there's still other teams out there that could possibly need an edge rusher because he doesn't want to be glued to one team. Like he's not going to be like, oh, I can go into the Commanders and that's it. He's open to multiple other teams, and he understands that that's how it kind of has to play out. But he said he's the best defensive player in the game. So nothing crazy, but he acknowledged it. And for him to be publicly talking about the trade also is something that I think could speed up the process of him being traded. I think it's a matter of time. I know the Browns are steadfast and not trading him, but I think when you make it public and then things start to roll out like this, it's just a matter of time before he gets traded. And yeah, it's crazy. The Commanders are being mentioned in these. It makes sense, but just how it's been the last 20-ish years. It's, cool to see that, he's being asked about this by national reporters, by media. Okay, how would you feel about playing for the Washington Commanders? If you want to see the full clip, Sports Illustrated, it's on Twitter. You can see the clip right here. It's 28 seconds. Nothing crazy, but he did mention the Commanders and said they could use a good pass rusher. So, and obviously he is a good pass rusher. Some other things, I talked about the Diana Rossini thing, some mock trades here. This is, who made this? Not sure who made, or MF Football or whatever, but it's just a mock trade here. A first, a second, a fifth, a sixth for Myles Garrett, and a sixth. That makes sense. I mean, I guess the sixths basically cancel out. It's a little bit of an advantage for the Commanders because of where the Browns are picking. And then we basically give them a fifth and a second and a first. I think it would probably, I don't know, it's going to have to, minimum a first round pick. I would say probably they would want to give up, like, let's say a first this year, maybe a fourth or fifth, depending on what their picks are, and then maybe like a second next year and a fourth or something like that. I don't think they would like to give up 4 picks in this year's draft. It would have to be a little bit more balanced than that. Maybe it would take 2 first-round picks, and in that case, it would be 2025, 2026. Maybe the Commanders give up a player too. Maybe they want to give up Jonathan Allen, or maybe the Browns are interested in some younger players like Brandon Coleman, Johnny Newton, Luke McCaffrey, Ben Sennett, like those guys that just got drafted. Maybe, I'm not saying they're on the trading block or anything, but just keeping those guys, just thinking about guys that could possibly get traded. John Allen, Daron Payne, maybe teams are interested in them. And you could throw them in a deal like this to give the Browns not only picks, but also some players that they can build around too, because it is a rebuild for them. I don't know what they're saying there in Cleveland, but, Deshaun Watson, I mean, that's just a bad situation there. And they have a top 3 pick, so they're probably going to be taking a QB, or they can take a QB. And if they don't take a QB this year, they can take one next year. So, Nick Chubb's getting old. They traded Amari Cooper. They're just not a, super talented team. So they are rebuilding for sure. So they're going to want some younger players too. And I don't know if John Allen and Daron Payne fit with their timeline with what they want, especially when they're trading a guy like Myles Garrett. And let's pull up Myles Garrett's stats. If you guys think he's not worth 2 first-round picks, I'm sorry, but personally, I think he is. He's 29 years old, so still, not young, but he's not old in terms of football age. 6'4", 270. I mean, he has, 4 seasons in a row with 16 or 14 plus sacks. The last 2 years, 14 sacks. The 2 years before that, 16 sacks. About 3 forced fumbles a year. Recovers some as well. Just an absolute beast. If he's a top 3 defensive player in the league, you can debate it whether he's 1, 2, 3. Maybe some people have him a little bit lower, but he's one of them once. He is, I think, the best player at his position. You can argue TJ Watt, blah blah blah, but I think Myles Garrett's the best defensive end in football. You can throw Micah Parsons in there as well. Trey Hendrickson's is an elite pass rusher. I don't think he's in that same tier as Garrett. He's in that next tier, but Myles Garrett, adding him to this defense would help out tremendously in the run game. Also, getting to the quarterback, I don't think you have to prioritize, secondary as much when you got a guy like Myles Garrett. Yeah, you can still make some changes, but that secondary you had this past year, and you add in Lattimore for a full year healthy. Hopefully that gets better, and then Sanders still in his second year. And then you have Myles Garrett as one of your pass rushers. I feel good about that defense, and you don't have to make that many adjustments. When you have an elite player like that, obviously quarterback is different, but you see what Jaden Daniels does for the offense, and he elevates everyone around them and elevates the team. And obviously, like I said, it's a different position, but Myles Garrett, he's one of those guys that's just elite. He's elite. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, I believe. And you add him to your defense, he's going to make everyone better. He's going to, truly attract double teams every single play. and it's going to make it much easier for those other edge rushers and defensive tackles to make plays, and he's going to still be making plays. And, he's a good guy. Obviously had that, the Mason Rudolph incident, but that's like a one-off thing for most. It seems like he's a really good guy and does a lot of good things in the community and just seems, really nice overall. So I think he would fit into the culture, and it makes sense. I also understand why they don't want to go after him, but, give up that pick this year, which is 29. You don't know what that's going to be for you, and it's going to take some years maybe before that player turns into anything. But I also trust Adam Peters to, draft good guys and develop them into good players. So let's see. Any other things? This is another hypothetical trade. First, second, John Allen for Myles Garrett and a third-round pick. Something to watch out for as well. I think it's going to take a minimum of a first and then a second, or you can do a first and 2/3 plus a player to get Garrett back. So I don't think in this case, I think us getting that third-round pick back is a little bit too much. He is, people are comparing it to the Khalil Mack trade where he got 2 first plus, or he got traded for 2 first plus, but let's keep in mind, they're about the same level of player. Maybe Garrett at this time is a little bit better than Mack was, but Mack was 2 years younger, and it wasn't like a publicly declared, he didn't publicly declare the trade. So Garrett has, which definitely brings down the value a little bit because the Browns have less leverage, because, this is always going to be the case. Garrett's not going to want to stay unless something crazy happens, and you would have to extend him as well, but I think the Commanders will be more than happy to do that. But that is it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys knew. Whoa, accidentally bumped in the computer. But yeah, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and peace.